Hi everyone, welcome back to Sugar Mama's 5-Play podcast. I am financial planner, Canna Campbell. For me, and I look at the family budget and how we're tracking through the month with our budget, I find food to be a really stressful subject matter. Making sure that my family are eating nutritious food, that it's delicious, because when they throw food on the ground or don't eat it, that's a waste of money and really frustrating, because I've spent time like chopping, cooking, preparing, shopping, running around to make these meals. And of course, I want to make sure that I'm investing in good quality ingredients, even if sometimes it does mean leaning for, a different cut of meat that's more expensive than another type of meat. So I'm out of my league. I don't have a nutrition background. I'm not a dietitian, not a nutritionist. I just I'm trying to figure it out. So to help me work this out and work out the best, ways of planning meals, preparing meals, and making sure that my family are getting the right ingredients, nutrition, minerals, vitamins, and so forth, I've invited Susie to come and chat with us about eating for the family, eating healthily, eating even as a single person, and how to make the most of our meals so that we don't waste money. We know where to invest, where to spend, and what are the hacks that she uses in her life with her, as a working mum, with twin boys, a husband that works full time, how she juggles it all in a budget-friendly way, a delicious way, and of course, in a way that just it's enjoyable for everyone. Susie, thank you so much for coming in and joining us. Just to let everyone know, you are actually a dietitian, so you're qualified.
I am a dietitian. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I am a massive fan of all the online work you do, the podcast, and we have spoken several times about the similarities between budgeting and financial management and being strategic with that, and eating well and nutritious eating, because it requires a lot of those same skills. So my background is I'm a dietitian. That's the university qualified profession who is qualified to give individualized dietary advice. Indeed, nutritionists may have a degree as well and be pretty qualified, but always check from your professional that you're getting advice from, and you want at least a dietitian or a university qualified nutritionist.
Because it's science-based.
To make sure it's evidence-based, 100%, and it's not just hearsay or fads. So I guess my focus with healthy eating is that it doesn't need to be difficult. It's about being time effective. It's about being budget conscious, because I think that you can spend way more than you need on what you perceive to be healthy eating, and it doesn't have to be complicated. So that's really my focus: convenient, healthy, nutritious options for busy people. Both families and individuals are the key groups that I work with.
Okay. All right. You have twin boys. They're 5 years old. How do you shop? Do you stick to a budget? What are your hacks?
100% I stick to a budget. I think I didn't ever plan how much extra it was going to cost when you had kids. So when I had the twins, I started shopping at a discount supermarket only because I was getting nappies there. So I started to observe how much I was saving just by being more mindful of that. And now I try and stick to about $100 base per week.
Really?
As a base.
Okay.
There's extras, but when I say a base, that's when I'm going to the supermarket, I'm getting my key proteins. So I will start with 2 or 3 meals with a base of a lean sausage, perhaps a chicken breast or a chicken tenderloin, a red meat meal or a mince meal. So a few of those protein serves that I'm sort of budgeting at about $10 per serve. And of course, in some cases, you can get 2 for $10. So turkey mince, you can get 2.
Yeah.
So there's that kind of strategy around it. So I start with that. Then I'm adding in my vegetable staples. Now, I'm very lucky my dad goes to the markets each week for me, which saves a lot of money. So he stocks up on things like apples and cucumbers that my boys eat huge amounts of. So then when I'm at the supermarket, I'm supplementing if I need perhaps some extra spinach to make a specific recipe, or things that are that bit more expensive. And then I'm buying our kind of staples: bread, milk. I always buy long life milk because it's cheaper and I don't have to worry about it running out of date, which is more to the point. Any ingredients I need for baking. So if I'm making a banana bread or cookies, I might need oats, or I might need the flours. And then of course the snack foods for the kids, which is where the money really shoots up. So that's things like the yogurts for school, or my boys might have a milk popper when they're at school, or the cheese for the sandwiches. So that's kind of where where I start. And then, of course, there may be a meal out. You know, we might pick up some stuff for the kids after school. If I see something on sale, I might pick that up. If I see finger buns on sale, I'll pick them up and freeze them so they last. So I really try and be strategic. Not for the point of on this really tight budget and I have to be. And of course some people are, and there's nothing against that. It's more that I don't like to waste money on things I don't need to spend on. And I find people waste a huge amount of money on food. And I think if you're getting the same nutrients from those meals as you would if you spent double, why would you not save that money?
Yeah.
Because there's so many other things I would rather spend it on.
Okay.
So it's a really key message. You don't have to spend a lot of money to eat really well. And I would argue that sticking to a budget means that you buy less and you eat less, and it's actually better for your nutrition.
Okay, actually, I agree. I did frugal February and I did a lot of food prep and obviously strict budgeting, and also just putting in my diary, like Monday night we're going to have spaghetti bolognese, Tuesday night we're going to have a meat-free night, like a vegetable stir-fry, Wednesday night we're going to have, some sort of pasta bake. You know, I found that by locking it in my diary, it made me organized, and I had all the ingredients, and I exercised portion control because as Tom says, cook once, eat twice, and any leftovers would be used for lunch the next day.
Well, I should say, it reminded me, I cook the same things each week.
Oh, really? So
I have set days. I do.
That's a very clever hack. Like I
find
brilliant.
the week so overwhelming and so busy. I don't want to be thinking about it.
Yeah.
So every Monday we have roasted vegetables. So I buy the fish each week, and they have salmon on a Monday with sweet potato fries, which are not expensive, and frozen peas. My boys love frozen peas, and they're really cheap. And then on Tuesday, they'll have a chicken tenderloin that's crumbed, and if I do the big packet of those, that's meals plus some lunch for the family. On the third day, we'll do the lean sausages or a meat alternative, and on the fourth day, we might do a spaghetti bolognese or come back to fish if I've got some extra. So those first 4 nights of the week, I do very similar things, and even on the Sunday night, I'll either divert to a soup, or we'll just get a barbecue chicken, which are $10. With a bit of chopped salad or leftover veggies. So I keep it very simple because I find the kids like simple food.
Yeah,
I'm not going to spend, an hour cooking dinner for the kids. Like they're not interested late at night. They like a plain piece of meat or fish or chicken and a few plain veggies, and I get them to snack on veggies before they have dinner. So one of my boys will eat a carrot.
That's a great idea.
One will eat a cucumber, or they'll both eat cucumbers actually. And then they both love now, my husband put them onto this, tomatoes and salt.
Okay.
Now tomatoes can be very expensive. It was costing me a fortune. So now my dad gets them at the markets for me, and we'll go through probably 3 or 4 punnets a week of cherry tomatoes or Roma tomatoes. But then I'm happy because they've had their veggies before we've even started. So if they then have some extra mash that we'll do with pumpkin and potato or cauliflower, or if they'll have some extra sweet potato or peas with dinner, it's a bonus because they've actually had a couple of serves before dinner.
Okay. Can I ask you about oils? Because you talked obviously a lot about the vegetables, and in the YouTube videos you showed us how you make, sort of buying potato chips, you roast sweet potato and normal potatoes to make chips for the kids. And I find the oil section overwhelming. There's so many different types of oil and so many different price points. What do you think is the best type of oil to buy, and why?
It leads into something else. I definitely spend money on quality when it needs to be spent. So, for example, in the case of oil or proteins like our meats, I will spend a bit extra on a lean mince.
To get a better quality.
To get the better quality. So that's where I choose to spend, and I would rather spend there than $4 on a packet of chips.
Yeah.
So that's where I really make some big calls on where I spend my money in the supermarket. In the case of oil, if you look at any packaged food, so pre-made chips, they're all made with vegetable oil, and it's often palm oil or blended oil. It's really not good for us.
It's not good for palm oil. It's horrible for the environment.
It's terrible. Processed vegetable oil is terrible for our nutrition long term, and it seeps into our diet from packaged and processed foods. So I only buy and cook with extra virgin olive oil. I tend to opt for the Australian brand Cobram. Not that I am supported by them. It's not sponsored. It's more that I'm aware of their processing that they harvest and they process at the time of harvest. So you get a really good quality, high antioxidant oil, which is so much better for us. It's a natural anti-inflammatory. It's high in vitamin E and antioxidants, which means when you cook with it, it protects the oil, so you can cook with it. You can roast. I don't use any other oil at home, whether I'm baking, roasting, frying on the top of the stove. I always use the Cobram Estate extra virgin olive oil. Now, the difference is if you buy blended oils, which often come from overseas, they're often often a mix of old olive oil and new. And the issue with that is it's not as high in antioxidants. It doesn't cook as well.
Yeah.
So for me, I'd much rather spend on a really good quality oil and buy the bigger one because you get them on sale and then it's not, wasting it. But I do absolutely always spend on that to make sure that we've got really, really good quality oil. And I roast the kids' veggies in it every night. Or for my husband and I, I'll get the pumpkin, zucchini, and they're my staples because they're generally the least expensive veggies you can find. With loads, tons of extra virgin olive oil, and we'll serve that perhaps with some feta or a little bit of hummus. It's delicious then. You're getting a lot of different veggies. You're buying in season. You're buying the cost-effective veggies, and they taste good.
On that sort of vegetables, I guess I remember as a child I'd have like the frozen vegetables and they always were soggy. But they're so cheap. And so now when I go to the supermarket and I look at how I'm like, wow, this whole bag is like $4 or $3. Surely it can't be nutritious. Like, talk me through the misconception with frozen vegetables.
It's one of the biggest nutrition myths that frozen food and specifically frozen veggies aren't nutritious, but that's actually not the case because they snap froze them at the time of harvest, which means they're probably more nutritious technically than ones that have sat in a supermarket shelf for weeks at a time. But it does come down to how you cook them. Definitely they do leach some of the nutrients if we overcook them or cook them in water. Yeah. If I'm honest with you, I only use mixed frozen vegetables in mixed dishes.
Yeah.
So if I'm making a fried rice or a pasta bake where you're not relying on that fresh flavour. It's made with a different sauce. I use frozen peas with the exception with the kids. But I tend to use the fresh, I think they cook better, like your zucchini pumpkin when you're roasting yourself. But I keep them on hand because if you want to do a fried rice, if you want to do a stir fry, if you want to do a pasta bake, you've always got some to bulk it up. Okay. So that's the difference. I think it's making sure you're using the right ones for the right dish because they can be soggy because, yes, they can be cooked in water or they leach a bit of water and then they're not tasty. So, the message is, of course, to have great tasting food.
Okay. The next question I want to ask you is about all these protein powders, and I'm seeing collagen powders and vitamin powders, and we're now eating these powders. Like, is any of this scientifically proven? Like, I'll do anything to look a little bit younger and to wipe away any little wrinkle or fine line that is multiplying across my face. Like, everywhere I look is like, I'm now seeing like muesli bars as well, and like protein bars with this collagen powder and so forth. What are your thoughts on that? Because they're expensive as well, I have to add,
The first thing for your skin, the best thing you can do is eat more brightly coloured veggies. There's evidence to show if you include more red capsicum, carrot, sweet potato, it improves the colour tone of your skin. And the most powerful antioxidants are in spinach, kale, and beetroot. So, and I should just go back to the veggies and say that because things like leek, celery, spinach, kale are expensive, you often buy a bunch for one recipe and throw it out. I either buy those frozen or I freeze anything left to make sure I'm getting multiple recipes. So that's really important because they're expensive.
Yeah, really expensive.
In the case of powders, as a general rule of thumb, fresh is always best. The difference is pure protein powder, 100% whey protein, is just concentrated milk powder. So if you have a piece of steak, a small piece, it's like 30 grams of protein. You'd have to have 3 glasses of milk to get that. So what that does is concentrate the milk powder down. So 1 scoop is 30 grams. So it's a concentrated whey. So with some of my clients, I will use protein powder. But you're right, it is a really expensive way to do it. So I might use it in baking or if a client wants to have a protein shake in the morning, but I never generally prescribe it unless people want to use it. And in the case of all the green powders, like, come on, it's not the same as having the fresh veggies. Yeah. Without being too disrespectful, it's not the same. I don't spend I don't spend my money on it, and I don't recommend my clients do it. With collagen, you have to be really careful. There are some supplements that have shown to slightly improve collagen production and the look of the skin. But they're not all the same. You really have to do your research to make sure you're getting the right doses. Yeah. And inevitably, those ones are even more expensive. Yeah. So I don't use any of them. And the other thing, the best thing to do for your skin is to eat more oily fish. And if you're on a budget and can't necessarily afford Atlantic salmon multiple times each week, use the tin stuff. Use tin salmon, or if you like sardines or kippers or mackerel, having that, if I was talking pure nutrition, I'd be having it 3 or 4 times a week, oily fish. And that's how much you need to get those high level of omega-3s, which is the powerful anti-inflammatory to get the skin benefits.
Okay. Also, a glass of water and some sunscreen.
100%. So I never, as I said, I'm really keen for people to make good nutrition easy, and that is not buying a million powders and shakes and, it's a business and it's a big market and it makes a lot of money, similar to the vitamins. But do I recommend them? No. Do I take them? No. I eat a piece of salmon and I eat more kale. That's what's better for us.
On that note of vitamins, what do you, like, again, like this, like you walk into a chemist or even the super in this aisle in the supermarket and it's like top to bottom vitamins and now gummy lollies for kids to get the vitamins and calcium. Like, do your boys take that? Like, do you recommend that? Like,
it's bad. I didn't even take anything when I was pregnant. I'm not a taker of supplements. Now, first of all, if you are pregnant, you should absolutely be taking your pregnancy multivitamin. I'm a dietitian. I'm able to balance it myself, in particular for the folate and even the omega-3 fats. That's a great addition. But for most of us who eat well, you don't need it. If you're someone who does struggle with your nutrition, you might travel a lot, you might have food intolerances, you might be celiac, you might have autoimmune disease, you might have particularly high energy demands, you might be run down. Absolutely, a multivitamin will not hurt you, but you don't need it generally, and I don't give anything to the kids. The only time I would suggest it with kids is if they're particularly fussy, and we do have cases where kids eat no vegetables, so that might be warranted. Other things that may be warranted, if you've got, again, family members who don't enjoy fish, you can get omega-3 or kids omega-3. Not if you wanted to, that would be something you could do. If you've got people who have very low calcium intake, again, may be warranted, but you can also waste a huge amount of money. At the end of the day, a lot of them get flushed down the toilet, so just do your research and make sure you're actually getting what you pay for and that it's actually warranted. And I'll tell you a funny story about that. Magnesium's a very popular supplement. People like it because they say it's relaxing and about 1 in 6 Australians will have relatively low intakes of magnesium, so some people it's warranted. But a friend of mine just bought a supplement off the shelf and she was complaining of all this bloating and I thought she must have irritable bowel. Anyway, it turned out that the supplement of magnesium she had was like 6 times the amount she needed, and it causes abdominal distress. You can do more damage with them. So be really careful what you're spending on. Make sure you're not wasting your money. The other thing is iron. We've spoken about iron before. 25% of Aussie women are low in iron or have low iron stores. It makes you feel like you've been hit by a bus. In those cases, absolutely you need to take an iron supplement. But no, you don't need to go and spend $200 in the supplements shop. And just because you spend more on a supplement doesn't make it better. At the end of the day, you just want to look at the key nutrient you're after. So how much iron, how much magnesium. And then I'd buy the cheapest form of that because you're getting the same stuff. So just be buyer aware when you go and make sure you're not wasting your money.
I obviously I'm pregnant at the moment and
taking your vitamins.
I am taking my vitamins, my folate, and I actually had an iron infusion when I was pregnant with Apple. But I went and saw Rocco's a really bad sleeper, and I took him to a doctor about that, and we had a sleep study, and he actually said iron, and he actually said there's only one brand he actually recommends, which is I think Malafa.
It's the one that's more expensive because it's much more gentle on the tummy.
And he said that will help give you a better night's sleep, better than magnesium. And it comes in a liquid form, which is really easy to give kids, or a tablet form. And he said it's the only one he will actually recommend, which was interesting. When I feel really zombie-like I've been hit like a bus walking around, I'll take them for a couple of weeks. I seem to be back on track again. But I don't.
Vitamin D is the other one. Again, coming into winter, about 30% of Australians will have low vitamin D. Signs of that is muscle fatigue, feeling a bit blue, a bit sort of not yourself, a bit run down and tired. But always check first before you take it, because some of them can be toxic if you take too many. So, and keep in mind when you go to the vitamin stores, people aren't always qualified to be giving you that information. So there's a lot to be said for having the bloods and checking, or getting the advice from a doctor, a dietitian who has to be accredited to make sure they're giving you the right advice. So with my clients, sure, I will sometimes use vitamin D. I'll sometimes use iron. I'll use omega-3. I'll use probiotics for people who have tummy problems. But it's not a one-size-fits-all model, and I definitely don't overly prescribe. And myself and my family, there's nothing we routinely take.
Okay. The next question I want to ask you is about bread. Okay, like I can buy a loaf of bread for like $1 or $2, and it's a Wonder White, and look, Rocco loves that bread. However, I look at it and go, I'm not quite sure about the quality of the ingredients in this. Am I better off to go to the bakery and buy a fresh loaf of sourdough, or is it really, am I worried about nothing?
Bread. We could talk a whole podcast on bread, couldn't we? There's so many. Nutritionally, multigrain bread is always better. And the reason is you get the whole grain in it, and that's where the nutritional benefits are, and it's digested more slowly. So that's why when you go to an artesian bakery and not only have a sourdough, which is a longer processing time because they allow the flour to ferment over a longer period, so it's more slowly digested, but then they add amazing grains and seeds to it. That's why it's so expensive, because it is, the raw ingredients are really good quality. In saying that, you don't have to go and spend $10 a loaf to get the benefit. Any supermarket bread that's got a heavy grain base is going to be pretty good. Now, the issue, of course, is our kids don't like grains. My kids, I don't give them grain bread. I'm 100% honest. I give them just a plain wholemeal bread. So, yes, you can spend the $1 at the supermarket, but I would spend that $1 on the wholemeal or the multigrain if possible. The other issue I have with a lot of breads is they're too big. So some of those slices in supermarket can be double the size of the bread we grew up with in the 80s and even 90s. They don't fit in the toaster. It's too much for us. So go for small slices always, if possible.
Slice thinly.
Or slice thinly. And just be mindful with sourdough, because sourdough slices are often double the size and they don't have the whole grain benefits. Really, you're looking for a whole grain sourdough, which is that next level of expense if you're buying it at a bakery. What do I buy at home? For myself, I buy a small, really dense grain bread and I keep it in the freezer because I don't have it that often. For the boys, I just get a thin, like Wonder White wholemeal, similar to that, or the Helga's wholemeal plain, because it is still getting the fibre. Yeah. And ideally they would have grains, but that will come as they get older.
Okay, next question I want to ask you, and then I promise you I'm moving off food groups back to budgeting, is butter. Like, you've changed the way I buy butter. I never have bought margarine, but the spreadable butter is not butter.
Oh, I fell onto this. It went crazy online when we put this up. So do we need it in the diet? No. Do we need added butter or margarine? No. But of course, it's nice to have on a slice of toast. I use butter in baking myself. I don't, margarine. For me, spreads in general are processed vegetable oil. And the reason they're called spreads is because they've had that mix often, even if it is a butter spread, to make it spreadable, because butter's solid. You can't spread it easily. So generally speaking, all of them, even the ones that claim to be healthier, even the ones that claim to reduce cholesterol levels, they're all blended vegetable oil, which has to be one of the worst things in the diet for us in general. So it doesn't matter if it says olive oil spread, butter spread, lowering cholesterol. I think they're all processed rubbish, and I wouldn't be recommending or buying them. So if you're buying and like butter and have been buying a butter spread, there's only a couple. I think it's the mainland one, which is a spreadable butter, which is 100% butter. So I would say if you want butter, buy butter. Don't buy a processed vegetable oil spread, which is adding nothing good nutritionally into your diet. And if you don't need it, don't use it. So if you're having eggs, put a little bit of Vegemite or put a bit of ricotta or goat's cheese or avo on the base. You don't need it. I myself cook with butter, or if I was adding butter to toast with Vegemite, which is, you might need that flavour or like that, buy actually the 100% spreadable butter.
Okay. All right. Back to saving money in the kitchen. What appliances do you have as your go-to? Do you have any fancy gadgets? What are your key cooking utensils? Because I know you hate cooking as much as I do, and I know you hate cleaning up a massive mess as much as I do. Like, do you have these secret, weapons in your kitchen?
I like it to be really simple. I think I'm going to disappoint everyone. I don't really use anything much. I've got my fry pan.
Yep.
I've got some great baking dishes, like roasting dishes. I do have a blender, for when I cook cookies and things and need to blend up the oats, but that is it. There are no, I'm not going to get an appliance.
Okay. All right, no, that's fine. I wanted to know.
But I keep it really simple. Because I find sometimes it's more work then, because you have to wash everything up. You know what I mean? You get the blender with little bits, you got to wash it. I like it simple. I use the pan. I use baking paper a lot.
Yep.
Because you can cook your fish or your schnitzel or your roast veggies or your baking products, and you don't have to get all the stuff off the pan. So I've got really good pans. That's what I invest in.
Okay, this is a question. What pans?
I've got green pans.
Green pans.
Green pans because they're, proven to not leach any of the different minerals into the food. They're really easy to cook with. They're really easy to clean. So I do think invest in a really good quality pan. Okay. When the kids were little, I just had the good old bar mix.
Yep.
You know, the bar mix. And I would love a KitchenAid.
Yeah.
But maybe that's the next house. But no, I don't. As I said, I don't think you need to buy all those things. So there's been a lot of attention with air fryers.
Yeah.
People love air
these
fryers.
humidifiers.
And I do have an air fryer because someone sent one to me, which was very kind. But I don't love them because I think you cook food that's not as healthy because you have one. So you eat more chips and you eat more fried chicken.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I put the salmon in there and crumb it. Well, I can do the same thing in my oven. So I don't think you need to go and buy any of those. But in saying that, if you've got an air fryer, if you love your Thermomix,
I love my Thermomix,
use what suits you. But I don't think you have to. I've got a big soup. The other thing I was thinking, I've got a big soup one because I do a lot of soup in the winter. But everything I do is roasted or on the fry pan. I keep it simple.
All right. The next question, it's the final question. And that is, when is it worth seeing a dietitian? Like, when do I need to say, all right, I need to go and see a dietitian? You know, where is the investment of seeing a dietitian?
Dietitians have a lot of really helpful skills for a range of people. So just off the top of my head, thinking about what we've been talking about today, and also clients that will present in my office. Parents who are worried about fussy eaters. Mm-hmm. So you've got Rocco. Yeah. How old is Rocco?
He's turning 8 in a couple of months.
8. So if he's not a great eater and you're a little bit worried about his nutrition, you know, he might not be sleeping well, he might be getting a bit constipated, you know, and you're worried about his performance at school or having enough energy for sport, you know, that's a really good time to intervene. I think for any women, so that women have so many things that bother them with their food. So if you're not getting the results from your diet, so if you're training, eating well and not getting the results that you want, and it might be to gain lean muscle mass, it might be to get leaner, you might want to lose weight after having a baby, you might be pregnant and worried you're putting on too much weight. So you will get very specific advice from a dietitian. And then, of course, dietary intolerance.
Okay.
So we see a lot of people who aren't reacting well to dairy or they're choosing to eat a plant-based diet, or they might even be going vegan. So when you're really making major changes to your diet and eliminating food groups, absolutely, I would say it's going to benefit when you go and see a dietitian. So out of the clients I see, I would say 80% are weight related. Mm-hmm. They want to lean up, they've had their babies, they're going through menopause, and they're not getting the results that they want on their own. Then I would see, say, 10% kids, either fussy eaters or teenagers who have really high energy demands. And then I would see 10% intolerances.
Okay.
So they're kind of 3 areas. But the other thing I would say with dietitians is dietitians specialise in different areas. So if you've got gut issues, see a gut health dietitian.
Yeah.
The girls I work with, they're gut specialists. I'll send you to them because they're gut. I'm a weight and hormone specialist. So I deal with people with polycystic ovaries or eating behaviour issues. So really seek out a dietitian who is specialised in that area.
Yeah.
Because chances are, if you're listening to this, you're probably quite interested in healthy nutrition and you know quite a lot already. So you want a specialist who's going to give you very specific advice above and beyond what you already know.
Okay. All right, that has been absolutely fascinating. Look, everyone who's listening who wants to see the meals that Susie prepares for her family, jump on my YouTube channel. I will link all our videos that we've made, and she also includes some on Instagram. The meals, they're all budget friendly. They're all highly nutritious and they're all delicious. And of course, I will link Susie's Instagram account so you can follow her there. And I was just saying to see how much I've learned from the stuff she posts. I feel so much more informed and armed as I walk into a supermarket. Like, I know not what to grab. I know what's worth investing in. I feel so much more empowered when it comes to my grocery budget and making better meals and making meals that are not going to be thrown on the floor or fed to the dogs because my kids actually like them. And there's nothing worse. At the end of the day, you're tired, the kids are starting to get ratty and they don't want to eat the dinner you've made. And it just makes my blood boil because I'm like, I chopped that for ages and I planned that and I went to the supermarket when I was exhausted for that. And but to have meals where I know that it's going to go down with ease, it's going to go down with no pushback, and I can then quickly get them into the bath, get them into their pajamas, and then we can switch off for the night, do story time, and the whole family benefits. And also we sleep better, we've got more energy to put into, you know, all our personal and financial goals and relationship goals.
And you're not wasting money. You know, you're making sure that you're getting maximum nutrition in food that tastes good, you know, because then you've got the money to do things you really love. You don't have to, you know, that works well.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, when you've eaten a healthy meal, like if I have a beautiful like salad with some protein in for dinner, I don't feel like eating a bowl of ice cream after dinner either. So I'm going to feel better about myself as a person and more responsible.
Well, I think it's about being empowered.
Yeah.
When you feel, and particularly for busy women, there's a lot of women listen, I know, and it's about when you feel in control and empowered, everything is easier.
Yeah.
When you get home after a long day and you think, I have no idea what to cook, I'm spending too much, I haven't got the nutrition right, it's just adding another the stress. So the goal is to create a strong nutrition platform that is easy, budget friendly, and ticking the box on the nutrition, so you've got more energy to spend on other things. That's the goal.
All right. Susie, I'm always so grateful for your expertise, your knowledge, your experience, and the fact you keep it real. You know, you're a working mother, you know, with twin boys, you know, like all of us, trying to juggle it all and keep it all together, but you do it in such a real, grounded, down-to-earth way. I just love that. We need more people like you, you know, and creating realistic meal, like, you know, there are all these beautiful Instagram accounts with these amazingly put together meals, but they're complicated and they're ingredients which I don't think I can get my hands on very easily or very quickly. And sometimes they're quite expensive. All of your stuff is, yes, I said, budget friendly, nutritious and delicious. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Susie, so much for taking the time to come and chat with us. I greatly appreciate it. For everyone who's listening to this podcast, please make sure that you are subscribed. You leave a rating and a review. And we will check in again on Monday morning for more Sugar Mama's Fireplay podcast. Ciao for now.
Always look to you for a warm embrace that kept me safe and free from harm. These days, everything's changed. Pull me through my darkest days, a constant phase where everything's a game. Always stuck another day. And I know you needed me to come back home, but I'm not gone and you gotta find a way to move on. 'Cause the times are changing, the past is rearranging itself to fit the way that you feel. And you know I'll always find my way back home to you, home to you. Days, a constant phase where everything's a game. Always stuck another day. Found ways to break away. In time I know you'll do the same. The end is near, it'll be crystal clear. And I know you needed me to come back home, but I'm not gone and you gotta find a way to move on. 'Cause the times are changing, the past is rearranging itself to fit the way that you feel. And you know I'll always find my way back home to you, home to you. But I'm not gone and you gotta find a way to move on. 'Cause the times are changing, the past is rearranging itself to fit the way that you feel. And you know I'll always